Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye has friends. No, really, Jeff has friends. Jeff's friends are on this podcast. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship.
Friendship.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jeff Dye's Friendship Podcast. We took a little break there from the COVID and all the stuff, but now we're cracking. Last week we had Cheryl Hines. This week, I couldn't have him in the studio because he moved back to Hickory, but we did a little pod swap with Jon Reep. Jon Reep won Last Comic Standing. He's a very funny comedian. He was in all the Hemi commercials. He's from Hickory, North Carolina. He's an awesome guy, good friend of mine. And so I was scheduled to be on his podcast, and I was like, you know what? Let's just pod swap this. Put it on the Patreon, put it on Jeff Dye's Friendship, put it on All Things Comedy for you guys to enjoy my friend and get to know him and hear our stories and hear us talk. Talked a lot about we talked a little bit about football, talked more about stand-up comedy and Last Comic Standing, and both of us, since we were on that, our experiences, and then also just like our journey into stand-up comedy. This episode will be very helpful if you've ever considered being a stand-up comic. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support. Everyone that's a Patreon subscriber, all the patrons, thank you. I can't thank you enough. This has been, I'm sure it's hard for everyone financially. I'm not gonna be homeless, but I'm making a lot less money than I used to, so I appreciate you guys so much. And every penny that you guys are sending goes to this, and I can't thank you enough. If you'd like to be a Patreon subscriber, it's $10 a month. You get to watch the podcast. You get it first, and also you get free tickets to all my comedy club shows, little goodies and treats. So thank you. Consider it. If not, at least rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Also, if you don't know yet, I have a second podcast called Danger Talk, which is brought to you by DraftKings, and that's on Apple and ESPN, and you can find it anywhere you get your podcast, but it's called Danger Talk. It's me and Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks, and we have a new guest each week. It's super fun. Check it out. It's awesome. You'll like it. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Jon Reep.
Jeff Dye, as I live and breathe. Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
It's good to see you, man. I am lonely in this pandy. It's been boring.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw you was right before I moved out of Los Angeles. I was hiking in Runyon Canyon in Studio City?
Yeah, either Runyon or Fryman.
That's it.
Yeah.
Fryman Canyon, and it was good to see you. I forgot how tall you were. I'm like, Jesus.
I know.
Yeah.
Big freak.
So, good to see you, man. So, yeah, you're all alone during this pandemic, huh?
Yeah, well, it's just like I'm supposed to not go out of the house, and they want you to stay inside. And I committed to that for about 4 days. And then since then, I've just been like, I'm doing what I want. Right.
That's the same here. I do have a mask that I will bring with me when I go places. And I'm like, I'll look in the door where I'm going. Like, if they're wearing it, I'll definitely take it. If they're not wearing it, I'll just have it in the back pocket. I just don't want to be messed with,
Yeah.
But I had my own made because I have a merch guy like we all do. So I put my face on a mask. I don't know if you can see
Nice.
that. Yeah.
I've seen yours. I've seen that mask.
Yeah.
And my buddy also has done that. He's a radio guy.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that you're like I like Jon Reep, but when I put that mask on, I don't look like that. Looks like a crazy version of you. That doesn't look like you at all.
That's true, and also it's not even accurate. Like the face is way zoomed in, and my my nose is like 8 times too big. I look like an orangutan or or Harry from the Hendersons or whatever.
It looks like if you ran for office and they drew like some political cartoon of you where they like made your nose real big and like a big red beard and they're like, bozo Republican candidate Jon Reep. And he's like, hey, don't make fun of me.
Right. So what have you been doing, man? I know we can't really tour right now. Are you just stuck in L.A.? Are you doing auditions? Are you doing stand-up? What's happening?
I've been touring to places that don't take the pandemic as serious. So I've done Utah, I've done San Antonio, I did Phoenix, Arizona. This weekend I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. And then I've also just been doing a bunch of Zoom corporate shows. And I did a pop-up show in a park in San Diego on Friday. I wanted to ask you what you're doing out there, but I have another podcast. So I have two podcasts that I've been doing. One is the Jeff Dice Friendship, which is on all things comedy. And then the other one's with ESPN and Apple, and it's me and Russell Wilson. And so me and Russ, we're co-hosting a podcast. And it's been awesome because Russ is very straight. He's very, playful but not, edgy, you know? And then he's also, the quarterback of the Seahawks. He's, a celebrity. And so I get to be the color guy, and he gets to be the straight guy. Right. And our first guest, episode 1, was Shaq. And so that's up right now.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's been great.
I am jealous of that. I'm a huge NFL guy. We could talk about the NFL for a second, too. I had Russell Wilson as my fantasy quarterback for many, many years. He's always done well for me. And I love him because he also played 1 year at North Carolina State University and did really well there. So I've always loved and followed Russell Wilson, and now you're working with him. That's great.
Oh, he's the best. And he also, if you have him on your fantasy team this year, he had 4 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah.
He was crushing it. The offense is looking fire.
So upset because this is the 1 year my fantasy league said, we're going to take a year off because we don't know what's going on with the NFL. You know, with the pandemic, with people protesting, we don't know what are the rules. Are we going to pick a player and then he decides not to play, or if he gets sick? So we just took a year off, and we're doing just a straight up pick'em league this year. But he went off, man, and that was fun to watch. My Panthers lost. Which is fine, but
so there's 2 things I will say about your Panthers.
Go ahead.
My favorite Carolina Panthers moment is, and I'm not saying this because what we're doing here, my favorite Carolina Panthers moment is comedian Jon Reep gets out on the field because he's friends with Sir Purr. Sir Purr invites Jon Reep onto the field knowing he's a silly guy and a celebrity, and Jon starts dancing with Sir Purr, and the security guard, who has no idea you know Sir Purr or you were invited on the field, ejects you pretty aggressively while you're going, hey man, I was invited out here, and they're like, yeah, right, smart ass. That was the greatest moment.
I gotta tell you, I ran into the original Sir Purr one night randomly. For years, doing stand-up, traveling all over the country, doing radio in the morning, that video would pop up and they would talk about it, and I'm like, it was awesome, it was great, you know. So
I'm a big mascot guy. I love
you'll love this story then. So the guy in the suit, I never knew who it was. Okay, I got kicked out. I just like the mascot. He's a panther. He's a fluffy big animal. I want to go out there and dance with him, and so for years, I never knew who this guy was. But I go on the radio, I'd be like, all right, I'm looking for whoever the Sir Purr was in 1995. I'm looking for you. I want to thank you for giving me my career and all this stuff, you know. So years go by. I don't know him. No one can tell me who he is until I'm happening to do the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville, Florida. And their mascot is a jaguar. And the guy who does the morning show is the mascot, and
nice.
And he happens to know. I don't know how these mascots know each other, especially the cat ones. But it's a small
community.
Yeah. So the jaguar and the panther knew each other, and he said, "I got his number. His name is Tommy Donovan. I'll call him right now." And we called him on the show. And then Tommy Donovan came to one of my shows, and now we're like good friends. I mean, it's a circle. I love that. It's great.
Wait. So then I misunderstood the story. I thought that happened while you were a very successful stand-up comic.
No. I mean, that story's been told many different times, but it happened before I did stand-up. It is what made me want to do stand-up. I had been talking about doing stand-up, and I didn't have the confidence to get on stage. But then like months before that, I did stand up. That moment happened. And all my buddies were like, dude, you just made, 50,000 people laugh without saying a word. At least go on stage and tell this story. And so
that's great.
That's
I didn't
kind of
know
how,
that.
yeah, that's kind of how it happened. But
Because they told me, like, Sir Per asked you to
he
come.
did.
That's so funny.
But he didn't know me. I mean, he just saw
okay.
some kid dancing and the crowd loving it. And so he just waved me out there. He's like, come on out here, kid. And so my friends throw me over the fence and I start dancing. And I never got to talk to him after that until years later.
Well, the reason I like mascots so much is because they're the us of their team. They're the comedian. They're the funniest. The mascots are hilarious. Right. And they're always coming up with gags to be that funny without being able to verbalize anything. Like, they're just so creative and cool. I also like them because players break our hearts. They get traded, they sign contracts, they get injured, they don't meet expectations. Dude, Sir Per's never going to tear his ACL. Right. Sir Per is never going to take a big contract to go play for Atlanta. Right. Like, the mascots are ours forever. Like, we get to have the Mariner Moose and the Squatch from the Sonics. And so I love mascots. The other Carolina Panthers thing I was going to tell you is so whenever I'm in Charlotte, I give those people so much credit. I say, you know what I love about Charlotte? I love the city. I love the people. I love the comedy here. I love all the people I know. I love Billy Graham. I love Ric Flair. I love Charlotte. I love it so much. Beautiful women. You got Michael Jordan. And one thing I always say is I love me a Cam Newton. And you know what? Charlotte did Cam Newton real dirty these last few years, being like, he's a bum. It's over. We don't like him anymore. And I keep saying, wait till Cam leaves. Well, as a Seahawks fan, being stuck with a Kitna or a Rick Mirer, my whole life, we never had a quarterback. We never had a guy that we were like, yes. Even Matt Hasselbeck, for a moment.
I was going to give you Hasselbeck there for a minute.
But just for a moment. Yeah. And even the season that we went to Super Bowl, we were all chanting like Dilfer. We wanted Trent Dilfer to come in. Right. So it wasn't until Russell Wilson came that we were really like, yes, this is a quarterback. Yeah. Now, that being said, North Carolina's never felt that. You guys have never been in that thing where you're like, Jesus, I'll take anyone. You guys got real comfy with Cam, and now you guys I could talk your head off about this subject because I was anti-Cam the last couple of years. I was all about him when he came. I'm like, we want a winner. We need to win. This guy's the best athlete in the business. He cannot be stopped, and he was great. He got us to the Super Bowl. I was at that Super Bowl. You should have won.
Well, there's many reasons. Well, the Denver's defense was way too good, and Cam. I mean, everyone gives him crap for not jumping on that ball. There was a loose ball he could have jumped on, but that is what it is. So we lost the Super Bowl. That's fine. He gets hurt. He's been hurt a bunch. Right. And the last season that we had him, there was a reason why he wasn't starting. He was overthrowing people all the time. He still had a bad foot. And he wasn't as mobile as he was. So they had to move on. And then this kid, Kyle Allen, comes out of nowhere. He starts doing good. But then, that was just a flash in the pan, and he starts slipping away. But I'm happy that Cam did well in for the Patriots. He scored like 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Had a good game. He looked healthy.
He had a good game. He looked healthy. I didn't watch that whole game. I don't know how accurate he was. But that's the only thing. I was like, I think maybe it might be done for him. But, he's got something to prove now because I think you're right. The organization kind of did him dirty.
Well, I just think I don't know the X's and O's of any kind of if maybe he was a butthole behind the scenes or if they were mean to him. But I don't know any of the nitty gritty gossip. Yeah. But I will say the goodwill of the city kind of was turned on Cam. We're over Cam. It was kind of like this, it was his reputation was just, and I just kept thinking guys, he's so talented. He's so charming. He's huge for a quarterback. If you can just get that kid healthy, that is your number one bet. I mean, he took you to a Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe you guys got a little greedy.
Well, I think they don't like the attitude sometimes. He gets really pouty after losses. He would go to the bench and put his hood up and just sit down there and not try to. If we were ahead 21-0, we were going to win 48-10. But if we had to come from behind, that was tough. He did do that a couple of times, but it was the poutiness. It was the me, the look at me, the Superman, the dabbing. I think people got tired of that when we were losing, and he was still continuing to do that. I think the city's like, settle down, you're not winning.
Right.
but that's the NFL, man. There's always going to be changes like that. But I hope he does well.
He might just be a little too flashy for the Southern type of person. You know what I'm saying?
Right. We're humble. We're like, we're like, no, please, you go ahead. No, please, you. Yeah, no.
You guys like a good old boy. You don't want to.
Yeah,
you don't
Jake
need a guy
Delhomme.
you don't want a guy wearing big hats and like crazy bandanas and things he's ahead of his time for sure.
Yeah, I think maybe that probably has something to do with it as well. But I did do a lot. I still love my Panthers. I still intend on rooting for them, and I'm going to watch the NFL. In fact, there's games tonight I'm going to watch after this. So my buddy, comedian friend John Heffron, right before I did this podcast, I was talking to him. And he said, you have to ask him a question for me. All right? He's got two questions. This is coming from John Heffron.
I love John.
He wants to know about the Mortal Kombat masks. How much have you spent on masks so far?
Hundreds. I've spent hundreds of dollars. The most thing that I'm spending, to give people some context, every day of coronavirus, I go into my coffee shop. I'm a big coffee shop guy. Like, that's where I do my writing. I also just like coffee. I like the process of going and getting the coffee and chatting up the barista. Sure. So I was like, if we have to wear masks, let's have some fun with it. So I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. And I just was like, what if I make a ton of Mortal Kombat masks? And I just go in and surprise the barista every day with another stupid Mortal Kombat mask. And it just got more and more carried away because I was like running out. I was like, one day it was just like the Raiden hat from like.
Oh, so you're doing different characters from Mortal, not just one character. So you weren't Scorpion every time. You were like different ones.
I did Scorpion 3 different times, but those are 3 different Scorpion masks. I did Sub-Zero 3 times. Those were 3 different Sub-Zero masks. I did Smoke, Noob Saibot, Cyrax the robot, which was just a whole motorcycle helmet.
Yeah.
I did Kitana and Jade with the full woman's wig. I did like the whole thing. Right. But if I couldn't 3D print it and paint it, I would buy it from like the place online. So I spent money on paint. I spent money on 3D printing materials. Right. I spent some of the like elastic straps and the clips and the Velcro and the hot glue. So that adds up. Mixed with some masks just costed me $60 just before I even got them. So I probably spent about $600 on masks.
I love that you did that though. Why not have fun with it? That's the whole reason I made this one. I mean, I just want to put a smile on people's face and try to get through this in a happy way.
If we got to do it, why should kids have all the fun? Like, let's just make the best of it. Let's not complain and post on Facebook. Let's just have fun.
Exactly. He also wants to know about your dog and the goggles. Does the dog really like wearing the goggles? How can you know?
Okay, so the truth is that I've never told anyone. He hates the goggles. He doesn't like the goggles. But he's not in any discomfort. I know that. Yeah. He's just annoyed by them. He doesn't like a thing on his face. But here's the thing. I do like when he wears the goggles. It makes me laugh. It's funny. People get a kick out of it. And so the only time he doesn't try to get the goggles off of his face is when he's in my motorcycle. I have a motorcycle with a sidecar. And when people see just a motorcycle with a sidecar, first of all, they're like, what is that? And they smile. But then to see a golden doodle with like dope goggles in the sidecar, they're like, shut it down. We have to get a photo of this. Like, I mean, people are just so happy. Yeah. So that he likes that because the wind is in his face. So he likes the goggles then.
When I saw you when we were doing, I guess, Fryman in Studio City, I think we walked back to your Jeep. And then I saw the dog, and I think the goggles were coming out at that point. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's fun.
Yeah. Well, it's also like I have so many weird things. Like I've got like this insane like gun. I have an insane Jeep. I have an insane motorcycle. I have these like big knobby tired scooters that I ride around the area. I don't own anything practical. Nobody looks at me and says, that guy's cool. Yeah. But everyone looks at me and goes, that guy's fun. That's a fun guy. Like everything he's doing is silly and fun. So I pride myself on that. Yeah, man. Same here. That's what I try to do. I don't take life serious. I mean, I've been trying to prove my mother wrong since one day I came home after a party in high school or something, and I was a little bit tipsy, and it was like the third day in a row. And she grabbed me. She goes, John, life is not one big party. And you proved her wrong. Ever since then, I've been trying to prove to her, no, it can be, and you can get paid for it. If someone would have told me when I was like in 5th grade, because I've always been the class clown and the big like goofball, it's just a coincidence that I ended up like filling out and looking like a real adult. But if someone would have told me like, hey, you know what you're doing here, being the class clown, you know that pays like really good, like that's a fucking great career. I wish someone would have told me that, because I had no idea. I just thought I was going to be this loser who could only make people laugh. And then it turns out that's a way more lucrative job than anything else. How did you get started, man? Like, did you so you were class clown? That's funny. I got class clown senior superlative in high school. I got it. My brother got it after me, and my dad got it when he was in high school. So it's really weird. I've always been trying to make my dad laugh, because I thought, if I can make the head comedian laugh, which to me was my dad, then I think I can do this. But I didn't know it turned into a job. I had no idea until I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. How did it start for you? You're like the Ripkins of class clown. Yeah, Cal Ripken Sr. The Ripkins. You're Cal, and then Billy Ripken. And Cal Sr. and Billy Ripken, they were in the hunt, but Cal is the guy. I like that you went with Ripken. Yeah, that's so for me, I knew, and if you ask anyone I went to school with, I knew from, I think it was like 3rd grade, I knew I wanted to be a comedian. I didn't know I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. I just remember being like, I want to be the guy that's on SNL. Or I want to be the guy who makes people laugh. I want to be like John Candy, or like in this movie, he's being the funny guy. And so I knew at 3rd grade, I would tell everyone like, I'm going to be a comedian. I didn't think stand-up comedian. I just didn't really know how it worked. And so I never tried to apply for college. There was no me trying on my test scores. I was just my GPA had like numbers and letters in it. It was like 200F2H like my GPA. I was the worst. I failed everything. I was suspended all the time because all I was trying to be was like social. But I was really likable, and the teachers were like, this kid's the best, but he just doesn't try to do his schoolwork and stuff. And so I had a lot of learning disabilities too, but mostly because I was lazy. Yeah. And then so the second high school was done, all my friends moved away to college and moved away to like, these cities that are just university cities like Pullman or like the University of Washington in Seattle. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I guess I'll be a comedian, but I didn't know how that worked. So I was volunteering at Young Life, where I get to do like characters in front of all the kids. Oh, so yeah, it was awesome. Like every night I would just basically get to be a jackass. I would go to Goodwill, put on some costume, and I'd be like, now I'm a hillbilly. And I'm sure none of it was great, but it's a pretty easy audience. They're like junior high and high school kids. And like, I'm this older boy who's like trying to do these like silly sketches for them. Wow, that's awesome. And it was awesome. And then after a few years, once I was done interning there, I just walked my ass to Giggles Comedy Club, signed up for the open mic, and I fell in love with stand-up comedy. Even when I was bad, I was like, I love this. Wow. How old were you when that first happened, that first time on stage? I think I was 23. And and I got to give credit to the guy. His name was Ronnie Wilson. He was like a mentor to me. He was also a Young Life leader. He was rich. He was like cool. He had like a nice family. He's a really great guy. And he was like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, you're making $0 working at the church. And I was like, I know, but I don't really know. I mean, I know I want to be a comedian. And he goes, if you asked 100 of your friends if you'd be a good comedian, how many of them would say, he goes, all of them would say, that's a great idea. You should go pursue that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah, everyone thinks you're funny. Like, so he just encouraged me. Yeah. And I said, well, what do I do? And he goes, I think you just go to a comedy club and tell them you want to do that, figure out what that process is. And I was like, okay. And from like literally like the next week. I think it took me like a week to like get the balls to go down there. But once I went down there, I was like, oh, I'll be here every night.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit at this club, even if I'm not on stage. Like, I'll just soak up comedians. I'll obsess myself with comedians.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm successful, because I get obsessed with things, and I can't just make one Mortal Kombat mask. This is going to be a video with 40 Mortal Kombat masks.
Now you're hosting every third show I see on television. Seen you on Better Late Than Never with Henry Winkler,
Sure.
William Shatner, Terry Bradshaw, George Foreman. That must be amazing. Is that
Fun.
Is that still going on? I know everything's shut down, or what's the plans?
Nah, because whereas COVID, I mean, like we did 2 seasons, which is great, and now it's just kind of like up in the ether. Who knows if it'll ever be a thing again?
Right.
I'm doing a show right now called I Can See Your Voice, which comes out in a week or so on Fox. It's like Masked Singer in reverse.
Interesting.
So instead of not being able to see them and hearing them, you can see them, but you're not able to hear them. So basically what it is like you have to determine if you think they can sing or not, based on just like looking at them and stuff like that. So
When does that come out?
I think it comes out next week.
Oh, sweet. All right.
Yeah.
And if people want to see your tour dates, they can head over to jeffdye.com. Yep. I was just checking that out. And thank you so much for, number one, letting me be on your podcast. This is a Smashcast. And also, thank you for being on Country-ish Podcast.
Thanks for having me, brother.
My pleasure. See you, buddy.
See you, John.
Jeff Dye, everybody.
How about that? What a great episode. You know, I've said how about that after every single guest for 120-something weeks, 119 weeks. That's a lot of times to say how about that. But anyways, how about that? Jon Reep's the best. I love that guy. He's so cool. I've got cameo questions from the Jon Reep, or not Jon Reep, but from John Heffron also. So that was kind of exciting. I didn't expect that. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the Patreon subscribers. Patreon, you have helped my life. Thank you. Love you. My baseball card with Topps is out. The show I Can See Your Voice on Fox. Check that out. I'm on that. I love you guys. See you next week.
Friendship.